Hey guys, name Madsen here. I just got done practicing some saxophone, and I was doing a drill with a metronome that anyone who was in music school would be very familiar with. It's where you take a section of a song, or it could be the whole piece, and you push down the tempo to a really slower tempo than you need, and you play it all the way through, perfectly. And then you bump the tempo up, 5 clicks, 10 clicks, doesn't matter on the metronome. You play through it again, and if you do it perfectly, you keep increasing the tempo until either you reach the performance tempo of the piece or the track, or you reach your threshold where you're losing control and you need to pare it back, bring back the tempo down a little bit so you can iron out those wrinkles and fix those trouble spots. And it just made me think about parallel into your career, into what we do as game audio people. And if you're watching this and you're not in gaming audio, that still applies to film, so applies to theater, all kinds of creative realms follow all the same parameters, where I see a lot of younger people trying to just jump into huge projects, and that can often be a mistake. When you're fresh out of school, and when you are done with whatever education you got, if you're trying to go land an EA, if you're trying to go land some kind of huge project, and you've not cut your teeth and you've not really learned some mistakes, then that's going to be hard for you, and you're going to be making mistakes with a higher level of risk. Because when you're working on a hobby project, when you're working on a very young team, let's say a small indie team or a student team, even better, well, there's less risk there, because to put it bluntly, fewer people are going to see that project, fewer people are going to see that game in most situations. Not all the time, but sometimes those games can break out and be huge hits. A lot of times though, it's going to be a very small audience. So you can make those mistakes partially because the people around you are also getting their sea legs. They're also learning how to navigate this situation. And so they're going to make mistakes as well. They're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect. But if you jump into a AAA situation before you're truly ready, let's say you just nailed something and you got into a situation where you were working at AAA and you hadn't gone through any previous experiences yet with teams, working with people, with the politics behind things, trying to infer and decipher what a producer is telling you to do, what another lead is telling you to do, what your boss is telling you to do. If you haven't gone through that process yet, then you're going to either have to be a very quick learner and really just perform, or you might make some mistakes, and at that higher level there's less margin, there's less grace at the higher level, because they have higher risk. They need their games to perform at a really good margin. That's why you see studios closing so often, is because they don't hit their numbers, and either the financiers behind it, the publishers, there's not a lot of wiggle room at that high level. So my advice is shoot for something where you can grow into it. And I was just using that analogy of the metronome exercise, where I could say, hey, I'm going to play this piece at this really fast tempo, but if I don't warm up my mind, my fingers, my body, if I don't warm that up to that tempo, I may not hit it. So I push it back a little bit and work up to the tempo, and I have much better odds of reaching it. The other thing to consider, and I've said this in other vlogs about not trying to just aim for the sky right from the get-go, but instead let yourself grow. There's two things here. One is, with a AAA studio, you have to be wary that you might end up being pigeonholed into a very specific role. I know of one guy that has done engine sounds at EA for like 10 years. That doesn't sound fulfilling to me. It doesn't fill my cup. It doesn't make me happy and excited to go to work if I'm only doing engine sounds. One of the things I love about my job is that I go to work and I'm writing all kinds of different styles of music. I'm doing different sound design approaches and everything like that. And then on top of that, I have the ability, thankfully, with SciPlay, to freelance as long as it's not a direct competition and it's not on company time or gear. That's fantastic. So I go home and I work on projects like Skatebird, which just funded. Things like that. And so that gives me even more variety in my day and allows me to just continue to grow and stretch myself as an artist. I've heard of some AAA studios where they will not allow you to freelance at all. I've heard of some studios, and again, these are big names, I've heard of big name studios sometimes saying, if you want to work with us, you have to sign this contract that says everything you do, no matter if it's on company time or not, we own it. And so those folks who have that job, they don't freelance at all. And so their only creative outlet is their job. I don't like that. And so just be careful of that. The last thing I was going to say is I don't want to give the impression that you have to be 100% ready for any job you take, because odds are you're not going to be. I've not been ready for every single job I've taken. I've always had a little bit of growth into that job. And Jason Graves talked about that in GDC. He gave a keynote several years back that I went to. Fantastic job. And one thing he said that struck me was he didn't feel ready for any of the jobs he got. Every time he landed a job, there's a little part of him or a section or a sliver of that job. He's like, I'm going to grow into this. I don't know this yet. I haven't mastered this yet. And that's okay. So I'm not going to give the impression, I hope I'm not giving the impression to you guys and gals, that you have to 100% master everything and then you're ready for a job. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying don't get too eager and try and fast forward to the end. I was talking with a good buddy of mine. He's also a professional musician. He's been doing it since college, just like me. He's in a different realm than I am. He's not in game audio. But he and I we're video game nerds. We both loved Final Fantasy VII. And we use the stupid, nerdy analogy that, because he sees it too. He sees the same thing that I'm talking about with you guys in his realm of the music industry. And it's almost like you're not willing to grind like you do through an RPG. You just want to go to the final boss and try and beat him. But you haven't grinded up your characters to appropriate levels. You haven't collected the right type of spells and armor to be able to handle that. And yes, I just exposed how completely nerdy I truly am. But you wouldn't do that in a game, so why do some people try and do that with their careers? You know, it's just foolish. So instead, be okay with where you are, be ambitious, and try and learn as much as you can, but don't try and shortcut it, because at the end, all you're doing is shortcutting yourself. All right, I hope that's not too nerdy or not too cobbled together, but there you go. There's some ideas, and I think I'm going to go play some video games because I'm done practicing. It's 10 o'clock. I have to go to bed pretty soon because my kids wake up early. I hope you're having a great day. If you like these videos, if you like what I'm doing, hit like, subscribe, comment, and comment. Not comment. Don't throw comment at me. That was stupid. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.